is Emily Field. I work for the United South and Eastern Tribes. So I serve tribal nations from the Canadian border to the Everglades over to the Gulf of Mexico. I work for a tribal epidemiology center in my capacity as an evaluator and provide support for tribal nations and urban Indian communities in generating and producing tribe-specific data. My experience with ToP was at a past job where I actually worked with tribal nations in the Great Lakes region, and it was about half of what I did was consensus workshops for, anywhere from like coming up with smoke-free housing policies for a tribal nation, where we had tribal leaders come in and they actually generated the policies right in the room using the workshop, to planning out community gardens to help with food sovereignty and food access. Done strategic planning with tribal organizations and American Public Health Association, and even have used the method in trying to address truancy issues. And that was probably my most interesting and challenging workshop, because we were under the impression that the participants were going to be teenagers. And we ended up in a room full of younger youth, and so kind of had to adapt the workshop on the ground. And, as opposed to talking about truancy, we kind of had to talk about, why don't kids go to school, and had to be creative with, literacy levels. The ages in the room, I think, were from maybe 7 to 16. In 10 years, I will remember from this experience the warmth of it, the smiles, hopefully the tools. I hope to continue to exercise them, and I hope names. When I walk out of these sessions, I feel excited and energized and warm. I actually wasn't exhausted last night, which was shocking. Yesterday, we all presented our personal inquiry projects, and mine was actually something I started 2.5 years ago. So there was like a huge sense of relief and resolve finishing it yesterday. And so because I mainly, or almost 100%, only use the methods professionally, I decided to make the personal inquiry project a deeply personal investigation of myself. And initially, I wanted to do a personal strategic plan, but realized that you can't just start with a strategic plan. You have to do some context setting and, investigation of just like, what is, where am I? And so I decided to do an environmental / historical scan of my life and that's a timeline, but it was a timeline that started before I was born and goes to now, or kind of where I might be going. And so I mapped myself out. I foresee my personal inquiry project of mapping my life out as bringing just kind of, it was an opportunity for me to pause and think, where have I been and where might I be going? And so I think what that brings is just kind of more data of who I am.